Cheers, man. Some afternoon coffee. Ah, should we get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So today I am joined by Caucasian Jesus. And yeah, this is me, Korean Jesus. Taking it away, we are talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and not just the finale. And also to you guys, this is going to be heavy on spoilers because, yeah, let's just dive right in. Yeah, it's the full show, all 6 episodes. We're talking about it. We're going into details. We're talking about things that we like, things we didn't like, and just the show overall. So, yeah, brace yourselves, get ready for spoilers, and yeah, plug your ears and skip this video if you want a non-spoiler version, because we're not doing that today. We are not. Yeah. All right. So, I must ask you, Jacob. Let's just talk about the finale. I think that's what most people are going to be talking about right away. But let's talk about, what do you think?
Dude, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I felt like it was a lot of pent up emotions just from the very first episode. It was like, it opened with him giving up the shield. And from that point, it was like, I'm upset. I'm upset.
Yeah.
And like through each episode, it was like, you don't have it back yet, so we're not on good terms. And then finally, in the final episode, he gets it. He dons the new suit. He becomes Captain America, and it's just like, this is it. This is what I wanted. These were the feelings that I've been wanting to experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, really happy with it. Happy with the characters that they worked on in the show. Interested to see what they're gonna do with some of these characters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways that it can go, but overall, it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I share that same sentiment, man. I've heard a lot of mixed things about the show overall, and I don't agree with a lot of them because I don't know. I'm a big fan of Captain America: Winter Soldier. I even really like First Avenger, and I really like Civil War a lot. So I've always been a fan of those movies, and so the fact that they carried that tone over and this finale was kind of building up to the moment, Sam finally takes up the mantle, finally takes ownership of the title of Captain America, and I think it was really well deserved. I will say I do have problems with the last episode. I do share some of those same sentiments that I see other people have, but I don't let it hold down my feelings towards the episode and the show overall, because I feel like they don't really matter to me in terms of the story that I tuned in for, And really, it's about the closure of Sam Wilson. It's about the closure of him finally deciding to take up the mantle, and also Bucky finding closure in himself and finally getting out of the woods and not feeling guilty all the time. So, yeah, but I guess I want to talk about some of the things that you didn't like about the last episode, because I want to see if they're the same as mine. I am curious because I feel like this episode was very divisive.
Yeah, so I think I think I'm hearing some of the same stuff, like with the Flag Smashers and how they felt weak kind of in the end,
Yeah.
and just the fact that they killed the character off was kind of gutting for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people started to really like that character and wanted to see kind of her grow a little bit. But the Flag Smashers as a whole, I don't know. I don't know, man. So like,
You sound frustrated.
I understand. So this show was never about anyone other than Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, and so
Yeah.
when you're looking at it a whole with all these other characters, yeah, they're kind of being introduced here, but I knew coming into it what I was getting, and it's also a Marvel movie, so how I view Marvel content now is completely different than how I would view any other show or movie kind of going forward. I know that this is just like a piece. This is a piece. I'm getting a piece right now, and especially with these shows, WandaVision and this, it doesn't feel like they're intending for this to be something that stands alone to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
This is meant to be a part of the universe, some background world building to have in between the movies that will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And so so I view it differently automatically. So any qualms that I would have with it if I were just viewing this as a regular show would be like Flag Smashers are over and done with. They felt underused. They kind of with U.S. Agent, that whole shift from being this really bad guy to being a guy that's just trying to do okay happened real fast. And the thing setting up with Sharon Carter felt a little out of place, I guess.
Yeah. 100% agree.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, more's coming for this. I'm not just done with this story. This is something that's like, oh, I'm gonna get a lot more of this, and it'll make more sense in like 3 or 4 years, which is weird to say.
Yeah.
But it also like they do this, like the whole Mandalorian thing from Iron Man 3. Gosh, that was a blow to the gut, and like that was a disgrace to the character. But here we are. How many years later? Like 6 or 7 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
been a
we're
while.
finally getting something. The 10 rings from Iron Man 1. We're finally getting something.
Dude, that trailer.
And so that trailer was dope.
Yeah.
And so
Money.
so when they do stuff like this, while it feels lessened from what I gathered from the information that the show gave me, I know I'm gonna get more later that'll fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
And so the way I intake Marvel content now is just completely different, and having that understanding just lets me appreciate it more, I think.
That's kind of how I view it too, and it's like it feels like recommending the show seems like you're recommending a season, or like it feels like you're recommending a TV show, not this show, but the MCU in general. It feels like you're recommending it to someone and saying, "Hey, it gets better in like the third season," or "You gotta watch out for this episode," because that's how a lot of the movies feel. Like there are things that kind of you could find gripes and you could find reasons to not like them, and there are kind of like the things that we expect out of a Marvel movie, and you know sometimes it can be a little bit predictable, and it feels like we're treading the same territory. But then sometimes they'll do something unique and tell a very unique story, or they'll kind of expand on something that we never really thought of, or they'll establish something early on and then set it up later and then embellish on it, which we're seeing now. So it's like exactly what you're saying. It feels like it's a hard show or it's a hard MCU in general to get people on board for, because there's so much. But I think that's the great thing about it, is that there is so much to tell. And the fact that they've gotten this far where they can start telling stories about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and make it really interesting and actually tell like stories and make it applicable to what's going on today, I think that makes it better. And I think that the show benefits from that. And I know a lot of people are like, leave your politics out of my Marvel TV show. I'm like, what do you expect? It's
It's
about
Marvel.
Captain America. He's got a shield with the American flag on it. Like, it's so weird to have that argument, especially about those movies and the show. It's like, of course they're going to address the fact that he's a black man taking up the mantle, taking up the shield. It's like, of course there are going to be questions that are, of course, not everyone's going to welcome it with open arms. So it's, of course, the show has to address it, and I think it does a really great job of doing that. And like you said, it's one of the things I really enjoyed a lot about the show. But man, did I care? I could care less than I cared for Carly Morgenthau. She was just getting on my nerves. She was just so entitled, so self righteous. She just thinks that, I don't know. She thinks that that her cause or her purpose is more important than anything else going on in the world, and maybe it means a lot to her followers or people who agree with her. But the way she goes about it throughout the show does not help me empathize with her character at all. She's a psychopath, and apparently she's supposed to be like 19 in the show. And I'm like, why are these adults following this teenager into into the depths of hell. Like, why are they willing to go this far for her cause? And I really felt like this show was lacking an episode that just talked about their cause during post blip. Like, I think they needed to have some sort of flashback, like they did with Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, where you see what's going on, and you see the world that happened after the blip, and you see how much better it was. But we don't really get to see that. So what we get left with is just kind of a brat who is leading this cause, and then for some reason, sorry, I'm talking too much, but Falcon is just writing so hard for this girl. He's like, oh, she's misunderstood. Like, we need to understand her side. But I'm like, she's murdering people. Like, it gets lost in like this area where I'm just like, I don't feel anything for her. And when she died, I was like, good. I felt bad saying it, but I was like, good. Like, we don't need her. But yeah, what
Yeah.
did you think?
I mean, I can understand that. I think, Sam's whole viewpoint was, he was really trying to look at the lens of before she started murdering people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because in those first few episodes, it was like, oh yeah, I get it. You have this cause, you're fighting for it. You're doing your thing, and it's not good. But there was that point where Sam was talking to her at the funeral, and then John Walker came and interrupted, and that fight happened, and then she killed his partner, and then she, blew up that building. And when all of those things happened, I felt like with Sam, it was like, I'm trying my hardest to understand you, but you're making it very difficult.
Yeah.
But Sam's whole stance on like, you know, we can talk this out, we can get through this, was to me, it was always a way of saying, I'm above, like, I want more than just this fight. I want resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was trying to get at.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's what made the speech at the end a little bit more impactful, was that he was trying to have this conversation and say those things throughout the whole show to Carly from the government's point of view. But it didn't work and ended up resulting in her dying. And he felt that as a loss, something that he failed on. And so he just stood up finally to the government side of it, and he said, this is also your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You played a part in this too. It's like, yeah, this is what they're willing to do, and it's because you're not listening the way you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think having the extremism was important for him to finally have that conversation.
Yeah.
Having us it had us disconnect from her character. Some people liked her more, I think, because of it, because she was so dedicated to it. Some people liked her less because she was going way over the line. But I think that needed to happen in order for Sam to accept that he couldn't have this conversation from one side. He had to have it from both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, and that speech, man, I know some people have problems with that. They're like, it kind of went on too long, or it's a little too on the nose. But for me, that's kind of what Captain America's always really been. He's been this kind of hokey, just do-gooder, and someone who's just he's just got a hard on for justice and goodness,
Mm-hmm.
that it's just, he can't help but be open-minded and to see both sides and to want to come to a conclusion where everyone can kind of agree on a common goal. And that speech was so Captain America for me. I think that's what really sold me, other than some of the crazy awesome shots that they had of Falcon as Captain America. And I was like, wow, this looks good. Like, the budget went into this episode like crazy. Like, oh man, the shield folding in and doing the little dome, that was
Oh yeah.
wow. But yeah, that speech was what really sold me, and it really put the pin in the head. And I was just like, this is Captain America, and I'm so down to see a fourth Captain America movie with Sam in the lead. Like, without the show, we wouldn't be able to have that transition smoothly, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, like I said, this was the setup show. This show was the setup,
Mm-hmm.
the new Captain America, Bucky Barnes, like new mysteries that we're trying to figure out. It was to set up all of that, and they did it well. And I mean, honestly, this is smart. This is so smart because so many people watch the movies. Well, guess how many people are going to watch the movies now? Because they whenever they release a show, it's talked about for 6 to 7 weeks, and it's always trending, and it's always number one on like what's being discussed. And then more people get invested, and what they do is they go back and they start watching from the beginning. They're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Um, and so having a lot of that open-endedness is like really smart from a business perspective. It's like, oh yeah, we can have 3 to 4 movies that stem from this interaction between Sharon Carter and Carly Morgenthau. It's like, oh, now we can do this, this, and this, and like people are going to go buy these movie tickets once movie theaters are a thing again. And yeah, it's really impressive. And then just in terms of diversifying what the Avengers is and what they stand for, this was huge.
Yeah.
Like this was so huge, and having a Black Captain America, having those conversations with Isaiah Bradley, and having that whole history that Sam's trying to also understand at the same time, so that he can understand that in order to push forward. Having those conversations were just really, really impressive with how they turned those out.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that Isaiah Bradley museum scene was, I think, one of my favorite scenes in MCU history. It's weird to say like in MCU history, but there are so many movies and shows now. It's like, yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. Like I was like, all right, you got me, I'm tearing up, and man, Carl Lumbly as Isaiah Bradley is so good in that scene. Like he totally sells that emotion, and I think it's one of the greatest emotional payoffs in the show. But that makes me want to bring up Winter Soldier's encounter with the Japanese man. I felt that conclusion for his character was a little bit rushed. I feel like that scene should have been a little bit longer. And I don't know. Did you feel the same way?
I didn't see that as a conclusion. I saw it as an introduction into what this character is about to be, and like what his journey is about to be. And so having that in the first episode, and then seeing what happens at the very end with those two characters, it felt like they were setting him up more. But like this show, while it's called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's really about Sam becoming Captain America, and the Winter Soldier is just like along for that ride.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was. It would have been nice to see more of his character, but it just means that we're going to see more of his character. How is he going to overcome some of these obstacles from what his past is kind of harboring over him? And I think that just that little snippet of him going to have the conversation was them saying, okay, now this is the beginning of his story. Like he's ready to have his story now.
Yeah. Yeah. It should have been called The Falcon featuring the Winter Soldier. That feels more appropriate than and the Winter Soldier, because I think when people saw top billing for both, they're like, okay, they're gonna have equal amount of story, and they do. Winter Soldier does influence the story in a lot of ways, and he is kind of pushing Sam to take up the shield. So he's more of kind of a motivator throughout the show, while also having his own storyline. I just felt like the way they tied up the story between him and the Japanese man just felt like it was like building up to something a lot bigger than what we got, which was like less than 30 seconds. But I see what you mean. Like, I think they are trying to say, like, Winter Soldier is going to have a much bigger presence, and although he is seen to be happy at the cookout, where he's still flirting with Sam's sister and, like, playing with the kids and stuff, it's like that's sort of planting to see that he doesn't feel complete freedom from his guilt, but he has made all the steps necessary to kind of enter into the world and start the healing process. So I thought that was really good, man. And I was kind of hoping that we'd see the therapist again, not just the therapist by herself, but with Bucky. Right. But what we got was good. I did feel that the last episode did rush through some things because it needed to get through all the beats. I would think that the show would benefit from an additional episode, but I know that the budget probably wouldn't allow it. And I did hear a rumor that they cut a lot of content out because there was a pandemic plot line throughout the series that they cut out
Oh,
because of COVID. And I don't know how
yeah.
much of that is true, but that would make a lot of sense. I don't know if you heard that.
I didn't hear that. Oh, I'm trying to think of like what that would look like in there.
Because I
That
think there's a
that would.
scene in like the second episode where there's like a box of like vaccines,
Mhm.
and Bucky and like Sam are talking or something like that. That there's like little pieces hinting that there was some other storyline that would establish the Flag Smashers a little bit more. I don't
That
know
makes
what it was.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because that would give a lot more motivation to Flag Smashers why they want things to go back to the old ways.
Hmm.
Like if they're unable to get these vaccines, if they're unable to like get these resources because of like overpopulation, which is like take things back to where we were with the blip, where we're populated correctly. Um, it it would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Um, but it also makes sense why they might cut that.
Yeah. Exactly.
uh, it's like
It's
yeah,
it's a catch twenty
poor
two.
poor timing.
Yeah.
Um,
That sucks. Would have helped the
but
show, but
I mean, who's to say they can't revisit that? This is set. This is set in the future too. Like I think a lot of people forget that this is like 5 years from now, 4 years from now.
yeah.
So this is what 2024, 2025. I can't remember
It's
exactly.
probably like 2020. 2025 was. Wait, when did Endgame come out again? 2019?
2019, and then it was set 5 years later,
So it was
2024.
2024, and this
So it's
takes
around this
place.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's possible we'll see more stuff once those years kind of become more relevant. But
yeah.
and we get our pandemic behind us. But my big takeaway from the Flag Smashers was the Thanos' idea of creating a better world still exists.
Hmm.
And it's like
And it works.
that's still it works and it's still out there and people are still talking about it and like impressions that he made are still relevant, and if they're relevant here on Earth, they're also relevant in other places. So I mean, there's just so many more exterior forces that could rise from that, and it just speaks to how well they did Thanos.
Mhm. I like the
Because
idea that there's just a Thanos fan club. it's
yeah,
it's funny.
yeah, and if there's one here, there's one, on other planets, and it it's going to be interesting to see in the movies going forward what that influence still has over people. Because I think that's why there might not be a Marvel team up in Phase 4, because it's all about what the heck just happened with that snap, with the blip, with everything that just happened, and like people getting over that and moving beyond that, and they need a whole phase
Yeah,
just to adjust with that.
yeah,
And I think this is like a really good starting point and just starting that conversation.
yeah. It also doesn't make the sacrifices and the weight of Endgame feel like just part of a bigger system. Like the whole phase would be dedicated to the repercussions of what happened, and
Mhm.
that's why it has so much weight. That's why Thanos is a G. That's why people love him, and it's like it's great. I love the idea of the Flag Smashers. I don't love the
Mhm.
execution, and I think whatever that pandemic cut plot was could have lended to that being a lot more easy to take in. But yeah, they're not gonna release like the Snyder cut for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but
Like
maybe
geek
they
cut.
will. Who knows? But yeah, you mentioned John Walker though, and we haven't addressed that because I kind of want to save that for last because I think people had some things to say about that. But I wanted to talk about the Power Broker reveal or the reveal, kind of like the
Hmm.
Agatha all along. It was just kind of
Right.
like, and I know they're establishing it to possibly tie into some future shows like Armor Wars or maybe even Secret Invasion. But I'm
Hmm.
like, I just can't really buy Sharon Carter as the power broker just because it's such a complete 180 from who she
Yeah.
was in like Winter Soldier and Civil War. But there are theories, and I don't know if you know any of them, like her being a Skrull Or
Oh yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. Was like,
yeah,
oh, that might not even be Sharon Carter.
yeah,
It's very possible. But you know, I think that when you're exiled from your country like that, and you see everyone else come back, and like they're just like pardoning everyone, but they forget you. Like that's gotta hurt.
yeah,
And like, what is she supposed to do? Like, no, she can't go work for another government. They're gonna think she's a spy.
yeah,
And so, what does she do? She gets involved. How can I think at first it starts with like, how can I help people? And she's really trying to do that. Like, I really think that she might actually be trying to help people, but I just think she's doing it in the wrong way.
yeah,
But it's the only way she could do it for the longest time. And I think having those years of having to deal with that, it weighs on you. But just like with other stuff in the show, we just didn't see a lot of that, and so it's harder to put it all together with that reveal in the last episode. Um, I like it. I like it because of what it could do. Like, it gets me excited for what might happen. But if I'm looking for, like, in just terms of like the show, yeah, it was weak. It was weak because
we got that on tape.
because we don't have enough there. We don't have enough investment in that character.
Mhm.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I loved that show up to a point. I
Oh,
dropped
so
off.
the first season. It reminds me of the twist right there at the end with Agent Ward. Um,
Great character.
a great character. And I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just like what they're doing there, except we didn't have the same investment in this character that we did in that character.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't around as much. We didn't love her in this show.
Yeah.
We didn't love her in the past movies. We're just like, oh yeah, she's pretty good for Cap, I guess. It's not Peggy,
Yeah.
but it'll do. It's her granddaughter. So
Yeah.
same difference, am I right?
Yeah. She's just there to get kissed, pretty much, and then
Yeah.
give the shield back. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like,
Yeah. And so there's no, like, we don't love her. So when they do that twist, it's not like, oh my God,
we're like,
what did they just do?
okay.
When they do it, it's just, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we say that, oh yeah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it feels weak. But the implications of what it could set up are huge.
Yeah. I think it's more, it sounds like it's building more up to Armor Wars than Secret Invasion. I mean, it could be both. But it sounds like, she's going to give away the trade secrets and things like that. And it sounds like maybe she's going to give up, like, the secrets of Tony Stark's tech. And there's going to be, like, an arms race, basically, with all the armors. And then that'll lead into Rhodey. And I think that's probably why they included Rhodey in the first episode, just to kind of know that we know he's part of the story. But yeah, yeah, for Sharon Carter, I was just like, her character was never that interesting, like you said. We didn't really grow to love her. But also just the fact that she could. Oh, oh, Jesus! Someone slammed the door. But the fact that she could just garner so much power over that period of time to become the power broker, that was the part that I kind of found the most unbelievable. I was just like, how did she just? I don't know.
I mean, she was around during the blip, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Think about how
yeah,
many
actually, good point.
bosses weren't. And so think about that opportunity.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah,
If she didn't
she's
get
always
blipped.
right. If she didn't get blipped, that's opportunity for her. I can't remember if they established that in the show or not, because again, very little investment on that character.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, she was around during that 5 years, and if you think about all the bosses, like the crime bosses and like the families or whatever who did get blipped away, there's just so much opportunity for her to like fill in the void of these roles, which could easily explain it. But yeah, that's just like, I don't know, guessing. I'm just guessing. Maybe that happened. We don't know.
yeah.
Give us more Sharon Carter.
We'll see. Oh, jeez. We'll see with her character. I mean, but for now, it's just like, yeah, they needed to do
Yeah.
what they needed to establish what they're going to do in the future, but
Hmm.
it wasn't that interesting. We all kind of saw it coming. But yeah, I will say that I wasn't expecting Alfred Pennyworth to blow up that truck full of the Flag Smashers,
Yeah.
but it happened. Yeah, I
And
don't know. That was
dude, my favorite part of that was seeing that Zemo's going to continue playing a part behind the scenes.
exactly.
See, I think that's what I love about this show from a villain's perspective, because we're just like, oh, we're just seeing characters that are just going to be around. So like Loki was and all the previous ones, we're gonna have like a bunch of those people. They're just like around doing stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what's really exciting to me. I want more villains.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, yes, you're
Absolutely.
giving me more heroes, but I really want more villains.
Thunderbolts, man. You know, they're
Yes.
setting the pieces. We got
Yeah.
what's her name? I know the actress's name, but Madame Hydra. I can't speak. Madame Hydra,
Uh-huh.
played by Julia Louis Dreyfus. I can't even remember that LaFontaine name. It's really long.
The Contessa.
But yeah, Contessa. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Just just cannot wait for what they're doing with John Walker's character. But yeah, speaking on Zemo, one of the best additions to the show. I wish he was in it longer, but man, he
Mhm.
was so good, right?
Yeah, it was really good. I think the best thing that came out of this was the 10-hour video that Disney put out of just them
Yes,
dancing.
absolutely. Dude, I knew the moment I saw that episode with my girlfriend, we're just like, this is no one's gonna let this man live after this. those are some those are some uncle at the cookout dance moves right there.
Hmm.
It's just I was dying. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and now super soldiers are theoretically gone.
Yeah.
The serum's still, probably out there somewhere, but the only one left is, well, John Walker and, well, Bucky, but, they established that, they're okay with each other.
Yeah.
But, like, what's he going to do now? It's like, I mean, he's just, I think he's going to be the guy like Wilson Fisk, where he's running things from prison for a while.
Yeah.
Um, but like just thinking about all the things that he could be involved in the future is really, really exciting.
I'm just thinking he's gonna make his poor 9,000-year-old butler do all the dirty work. I'm like, do you have no one else to do your dirty work? That
I
man
kind of love that.
is so old. Unless he's a scroll, he has no business doing any of that. Like, the first moment they introduced him in that episode, which, by the way, the fact that they established that he's a baron and that he's just loaded is just
Mhm.
so, mwah, just great. And that mask for that brief moment was great as well. But the moment we see this frail old man come in through the plane, I was like, really? This guy? Like, let the man retire. Like, the man is past his prime.
I love it, and I think it shows that they're going to keep the humor with him, like going forward. Like they're gonna establish him as a villain that has humor to break up some of the rough parts in future movies or shows,
Yeah.
which is good. They need that. Um, but yeah, Zemo's great.
Yeah, Daniel Bruhl, he just adds a really great dynamic between Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's just
Mhm.
they're always just kind of keeping an eye on him. He's kind of the what do you call it, the wild card of the
Yep.
group, and that's what always kept it really interesting in that episode, especially that episode where he kind of just sneaks off while they're fighting the Dora Milaje. Like, I just love that dynamic. I wish they kept him on longer, and also that scene where Bucky's pointing the gun at him. It's just like such great just any interaction with them is fantastic. I hope he comes up in Captain America 4 in some
Yeah.
capacity. But I don't know if that'll cheapen it. But if Captain America comes out like in a few years, then I think that's enough time for us to be like, oh yeah, Zemo's back, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, I loved his addition, but also really enjoyed John Walker. So yeah, let's talk about John Walker, man.
Yeah, so man, that dude plays such a good dick.
He does,
Like
yeah.
he that role so well, and
Mhm.
like I hated him. I was like, I don't want you around, you know? Like I don't like it when you're on screen, but like I love what you're doing to the show.
Mhm.
Like I love this dynamic that you're adding. Um and seeing his development was just like was amazing. Like what he
Yeah.
was able to do with this character was really, really awesome. Um and just you just seemed like even when he donned it, it was like, wow, I can't believe this. You felt like he did, like he thought he didn't deserve it, but was going to do the best he could.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, it was like, oh, he's trying to overcompensate.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah.
hella overcompensating for something. You find out, oh, maybe something happened, like where he got all these medals. He starts talking about it. He's like, we didn't deserve this, and it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, and it's like, whoa, what have you been through, my dude?
Yeah.
And then seeing his progression into just after he does the super soldier thing and hearing his partner say, oh, it doesn't make you stronger, it just makes you more of what you already are.
Mhm.
Like the super soldier serum won't make you Captain America, it'll just make you more of what you are. I thought
Mhm.
that was really, really powerful line that was delivered by him, and then seeing what that did to John Walker and just how he just completely went over the line
Yeah.
and just murdered a guy. And
I think that's probably my favorite episode. Yeah, what at least top two,
mhm,
because I really like that second to last episode a lot.
mhm.
Just like Falcon and Bucky just chopping it up and learning more about each other. But
Yeah,
yeah, that John Walker scene, it's great. It's great.
and I'm glad to know that Marvel's willing to make it that dark, because
Yeah.
that's dark. That's like psychological dark.
Mhm.
Um, the only thing that I will say about John Walker is that like I'm so surprised they were just okay with letting him just kind of like walk away.
Yeah, that was my problem too. Like the
It's
fact that
like,
he's quipping with Bucky.
yeah, and it's just like, okay, he's just like walking around now. They
Mhm.
told him to stop doing this, the government, and he didn't stop doing this.
Yeah.
But I guess he kind of like, he realized what he was doing was a little too far. But like when he's a therapist.
Yeah, yeah. In the fact that he made a Toys R Us version of Cap Shield, and
Oh
like,
yeah, I was nervous about that. I was like, there's no way Marvel's about to let him just make a shield out of scrap metal
mhm.
and like have it work. But then they showed that it just got obliterated right away, and I was like, okay, 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 we're fine, we're good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it also shows just how deteriorated this guy has become. He's
Mhm.
cracked, and I like the scene with the redemption of his character was really nice. It was a nice touch, and I like how it's pretty open ended and shows that this character is probably going to be manipulated a lot more in the future because all he wants to do is serve his country at this point. And I really like that about his character, kind of that evolution of a guy who just wants to do good, but he feels the weight and pressure of this legacy character, of this legacy person on his shoulders, and all he wants to do is satisfy his country. And so seeing that breakdown of his character devolve and then break once his best friend is killed, it makes sense and you feel for the guy. But the fact that Bucky's just like, oh, it's weird when it's coming out of your mouth, like the whole like Abraham Lincoln quote. I was like,
Mhm.
shouldn't you guys be cuffing this guy? Because he literally killed a dude on like live television, on people's phones, and it was spread everywhere. Like this guy's not well. So I
Mhm.
think it should have immediately been like, you did something good. You made the right choice. But I think in the end it should have been those two characters being like, yeah, you know, we know you're trying to get better, but we need to take you in. And that should have been kind of the breaking point further. And then him getting like the black suit for the U.S. agent suit maybe could have led into that as well. But I just feel like, yeah, the treatment of that character specifically towards the end felt like it was out of character for a lot of people around him.
Mhm.
But I was still
Yeah.
not too bummed up about it. But yeah.
Well, I think they needed that because if they had stuck in character, it would have made things worse for John immediately. But I think what they're trying to set up is like with the Contessa, is they're trying to set up John Walker feeling redeemed in a way, and him feeling redeemed and feeling like he might go out there and do good things, only to find out that he's going to be manipulated. I think that from that point, that's when, it'll ultimately send him over the edge.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people don't know this, but John Walker is hella strong, like stronger than Steve Rogers.
Oh, for real? In the
And
comics?
so, yeah, and so it'll be really interesting to see what happens with him.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't know a lot about his character in the comics. I think I remember reading one comic where he showed up randomly, but he felt kind of like just a clone of Nuke, that character, which I'm familiar with Nuke from like the Wolverine comics and things like that, and
Mhm.
also from Jessica Jones, where they kind of didn't they did that character a lot of disservice
Yeah.
in that. But yeah, I just felt like they did so much more for creating an actual person behind the character and making us, well, for most people, not liking the character, but understanding where he came from. But for me, right away, I felt for the guy. Like the moment they open up with him in the locker room, about to walk out into the field, I was like, man, like I understand how much pressure this guy's under,
Mhm.
and I think about it. I'm like, what would I do in that situation? Of course, I would be like, yeah, like fill me up with that serum, baby. Like I'm like, there's no way I can do this as a
I got
regular
big shoes
Joe.
to fill.
So yeah, I'm no Sam Wilson. I'm no Steve Rogers. I don't have the will. Like I'd be like, I need the help. So yeah, I immediately felt for his character, and the death of Lamar being that breaking point, I was like, yeah, dude, I would do the same thing. And also, he probably wasn't thinking straight with the serum just freshly in his blood. So
Mhm.
a lot of great things that they did with his character. Just wasn't completely satisfied with the execution at the end. But I was happy that they're showing that, like you said, they're going to do some more stuff with U.S. Agent. They're establishing he's going to probably be manipulated and kind of be the dog for whatever kind of group that Contessa is putting together. He's going to
Mhm.
be probably going on these covert missions that his morality is going to be questioned a lot of the time. And I really want to see what direction that goes. I don't know if it's going to be in another show, another season of Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or if it's going to be in the movie. But I'm really excited to see where they do what they do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the biggest takeaway from the show is that there's a lot of things to look forward to from Marvel and what they're putting out. And then hope soon we'll finally start getting that stuff because there's, finally stop delaying things, it seems.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, it's really, really exciting. Um, they, they delivered this well.
yeah. I think overall as a show, yes, it has its issues. I understand where people are seeing the flaws, but I see it in a very similar way that you do, where it's like this is a part of another or of a bigger picture. It's really like an episode. I know it's its own show, but it's really like these movies and these shows are sort of just episodes in this really long running
Mhm.
like season of television or like multiple seasons of one show, which is the Marvel show. It's
Mhm.
it's really diving deep into each character and giving us a lot more context behind, a character you would see in a show who would get their own highlight episode. Like I think a good example for you would probably be like Buffy. There's probably
Mhm.
episodes of Buffy where they talk about one certain character, or the one character has their own A plot, and then the main characters have their own B plot in that show where they have precedence or whatever. So it feels like that, and when I look at it through that lens, I appreciate the show a lot more with its flaws and all, because it's really hard to dish out so much content like this in a shared universe and not have some flaws along the way. So I just am impressed
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. And I think that's what needs to happen is we need to start, like reviewers, critics, this isn't this isn't normal television or movies anymore. This is a long running project. It almost feels like you have to review phases.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like the phases are what culminates as the season, and like the movies are the individual things that you would do along the way, or like review along the way, but how do they like culminate in the terms of a phase? Like phase 1 was a season, phase 2 was a season, phase 3 was a season, and then it all was like part of the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and now it's like phase 4 is all setting up what's going to happen in phase 5, 6, and so on. Um, and so I think when you go into Marvel shows and Marvel movies now, there just has to be the understanding of this isn't a one and done thing. I'm not going to watch it and be done with it. I'm watching this and I'm creating an investment on the greater story that's being told.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't just watch one Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah. Or just like not even one Lord of the Rings, but like one chapter of the Lord of the Rings, because each movie is like its own phase, because they're so long, especially if you have the extended editions, but they're so long, and that's why it feels like it's so episodic in a way. And I sort of agree with Martin Scorsese when he says these movies are more like you should expect them to be more like theme park rides, but in a way that I give it a lot of respect towards theme parks, because they do put a story, and they like it's exciting. Like that's why we go to watch these movies. They're exciting entertainment, but it's a story that's being told over multiple movies, over now shows. It's like it's a universe, and it's hard to review and be transparent about these movies on the same level as, like, let's say like Whiplash or like any of the Oscar contenders or like independent films. It feels like something completely different, and it's hard to even compare it that way. And if you really want to, I probably wouldn't say like this is like the next Jaws or anything like that, but in terms of my entertainment and my investment, yeah, I feel like it has its own rating scale. And that's how I felt about WandaVision. I'm like, as a show, and if I was like asking anyone who doesn't know about the MCU to watch it, yeah, they'd probably be like, yeah, it's like a 6.5 out of 10. Like, I don't know what was going on, and I don't really give a shit, but like, there was cool visual effects and stuff and good acting. But like, if you've been invested in this, I think that payoff, for me personally, puts it at like an 8.5 out of 10. It's like, for me, a lot paid off, and I'm invested. I'm in. I'm locked in, and I'm I'm reviewing it on a different scale than most people. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's like people, I know a lot of big reviewing companies or critics or whatever, they have their thing that they've been doing for a long time. They review movies as movies. Like, that's fine. You can totally do that. But when people go to look at those reviews, they're not getting the full picture. And I think if we can just get beyond that and look at these for what they are as stepping stones, like all these are a stepping stone. All these lead to the next thing until finally we get the big Thanos fight. Like we get everything that just like wraps up there.
Yeah.
Then more people will enjoy it and more people will see it for what it is. And having that mindset going into it allows you to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Like if I were going into this show thinking, oh yeah, this show's been hyped up, it's been talked about, they're probably going to talk about this at the Oscars. This might win an Emmy or something. Then I would be disappointed.
Yeah.
But going into it knowing, oh, these characters have been through this and that, and they're at this point in their life, and this is going to lead into what Marvel's talking about doing next, and the story is just a small part of that. I enjoyed it so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel's they're doing good. They're doing good.
Yeah. The fact that they entered into the television world, and so far they're doing a really good job. I won't say like narratively it's on par with like Daredevil, like the Netflix shows, even Jessica Jones season 1. Like those shows did really great, like good enough to be compared to like other shows on Netflix, original series and stuff. But as far as these characters go and fleshing them out and giving us more investment and establishing that this is the new Captain America, it did everything it needed to do, and it exceeded some of my expectations for a lot of the characters, and it made characters that I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna really buy into that, like John Walker. It made that character something I'm looking forward to. It wasn't just a one and done character. It's something that they built up and established that, these characters are gonna have more of a presence in the future, and we got you now. Like, you are locked into who this person is, and you want them to not be manipulated. You want them to hopefully come to the good side, or like not lose their morality or anything like that, but it's inevitably going to happen, so you want to watch that journey. And the fact that they did that over 6 episodes while being a Falcon and Winter Soldier centered story is really impressive. It's really impressive, despite Flag Smashers being garbage. But yeah, they did a really good job with what I was going in to see. So yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. And just overall, the show, I don't even, it's hard to give it a number, give it a rating or anything like that, because it feels like you can't say, like, well, I gave this an 8.5 out of 10, but I also gave this other movie an 8.5 out of 10. It's like people are going to do comparisons or whatever. So I think for these, we just got to give them a recommendation. Like we did.
Yeah. I think if you're invested in the universe and what Marvel's doing, yeah, watch it. If you're new to Marvel and you're thinking, should I watch this show? Don't do it yet.
Yeah.
Now it's not where you jump in.
You're going to be confused.
Yeah. You'll be very, very confused. Definitely start from the beginning. It's something you want to catch up on. Or even just like, there's YouTube videos out there that'll catch you up on like all the phases.
Yeah.
And then at least do that before you watch the show, and then if you want to afterwards, start over with the movies.
For the love of God, start now while you can, because it's what have you been doing? Like, now is not the time to just all of a sudden get interested. Like, you are.
Yeah.
What is
in 6 years? It's going to be astronomical. It's gonna seem like it's going to be such a huge investment to start in 6 years. And so I'll be very, very interested to see how they continue to pull people in at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, new characters helps. Miss Marvel's going to pull in more people. Blade's going to pull in more people.
Oh, yeah.
Even when Monica Rambeau gets her movie spotlight, that's going to pull in more people.
Shang-Chi's going to get that Asian audience that was never interested in Marvel movies. I think it's going to pull them in and be like, all right, like, this is a big deal. Let's do it.
They're making an Asian culture kung fu movie, and it's like they're doing it in the Marvel's setting, and it's like so awesome.
It looks
It's like
really
so cool.
good.
It does. And so like these characters will pull in more people, but there will always be that story that you have to go back and look into. Always.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't knock on people who don't get into these movies. I understand, like, you have to be really open-minded to it, and you also have to be sort of invested from the get-go. If you're kind of just starting to get interested in it and you're like, yeah, these movies are okay, I completely understand. And I understand if you don't think these are that great. Like, I understand those people, but at the same time, I'm like, I think you had to, and I hate to say be one of those people, is like, you had to be there. Like, you had to be there from the very beginning. You kind of had to have that interest to go watch those movies from the beginning and be in a mindset that the comic books that we grew up with are coming on the big screen and they're getting like all these fans interested. I think you have to be in that mindset to be like, yeah, this is kind of a big group like mindset that we're all here to see an event. And if you're expecting, I don't know, some kind of like indie drama, then go to a different movie. But these are like splash page events on the big screen, and that's what makes it so cool and exciting. Yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Man, yeah, I'm excited for what's next. It's really great. Watch the show if you've watched Marvel stuff up till now. You gotta. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, you got some decisions to make.
Good luck. Do you read One Piece?
No, because I got in too late.
Yep. That's exactly the example I was going to say. I was like, dude, I fell off reading it. I was invested all up through college. And then I was like, I got to focus on studying, stop reading it. And they are still going. And I'm like, I can't do it. I don't have time. So that's how I feel. Like,
Yep. I looked up how many episodes there were like a year ago, and I said, I don't have that time.
exactly. Like, even time to read it. It's just like, dude, that's why I'm saying, like, you got to start now or just never get invested ever. Or
Yeah.
at least, I don't know. Maybe people will like there's certain movies where I'm like, yeah, I can see someone not being invested in the MCU, but watching this movie and being like, ah, it was a good time. Like, I really enjoyed that. There are
Yeah.
certain movies like that, like Spider-Man,
Or Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok, exactly, yeah.
No.
Yeah, or Captain America Winter Soldier, sort of.
Winter Soldier, yeah.
Like, there are some movies that are accessible to a mainstream audience, but there are just some movies or shows now where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I totally get it. My mom's not going to be like, oh, WandaVision. She's like, who are these people? Why is this guy purple? Like, so many questions. Yeah. But overall, love the show. Highly recommend you go watch it. Is it Breaking Bad? No, it's not Breaking Bad, but you shouldn't expect it to be Breaking Bad. This is its own thing. If you're invested in the MCU as a whole, I think you're going to have a great time. If you love Winter Soldier and those vibes and the tone of it, you're going to love this show. It's a heavy hitter. If you don't like politics in your shows, what did you think, buddy? What did you think was going to happen? So yeah, that's my thoughts overall. If I had to give it a number, I'd say it's like a 8.9 out of 10. Pretty close to a 9 out of 10. Yeah, good show. But yeah, Jacob, your thoughts.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, anyone that knows Marvel's history knows that politics are a big part, all the way from like when Marvel Comics began. It's always been about politics. So get over it. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
This is what it is. The show is really great. It's established a lot of new characters, a lot of new villains, and it's also just set up a lot of directions in which we can see a lot of stories grow. And there's still a lot of development left for Sam and Bucky both. So really excited to see what those characters do. On the Marvel meter, yeah, 8 to 9 out of 10. In that range, definitely. It's good TV. You if you're invested and you watch that first episode, you're gonna watch the next one. Like, you don't miss these episodes. You start them and you're watching them all the way through, and that's the magic of Marvel. You get invested in their stories and you want to see what happens to the characters, because you love the characters, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And they set up Sam really, really well. They set up Bucky to grow really, really well, and they set up a lot of good villains. So, if they did anything perfectly, it's getting us excited for what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, I am excited for these upcoming shows. Let's do you want to do another video like this for Loki when it comes out? Yeah, we gotta get Morgan. If you're watching this, you gotta join us for that, because I know how excited you are for that show as well. Dude, that trailer looks bananas, man. Ah, man, I cannot wait. Owen Wilson. Yeah, a lot of cool things to look forward to. A lot more videos we're gonna do together. So yeah, man. The great thing about this show, or these Disney Plus shows, or just Disney Plus in general, is that it gives us something to talk about week to week. I like the fact that they're doing them week to week and not just putting them all out. Like, I like having these conversations and like thinking about theories and kind of just waiting on the next episode. That anticipation, it really adds to the experience, and that's what it's given us. So yeah, I love the show and recommend it. And yeah, if you guys are not yet subscribed, do it if you want. It doesn't matter. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. You did it. So yeah, overall, those were our thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Jacob, do you have anything you would like to plug or talk about?
Nothing currently. I've got a Twitch if y'all want to check that out. I'll send my handle over to Brandon to plug in the below area down there.
Yeah.
And yeah, stay tuned for more movie and show talk. This has been a lot of fun. I love doing these.
Yeah, man. These are great. And dude, are you watching Invincible, by the way?
Oh my gosh.
Are you?
Yeah.
Man.
Stay tuned. We're doing an Invincible show.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up that season. Yeah, definitely. Oh my god, I just broke my desk. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Follow Jacob on his Twitch channel and follow this channel if you'd like. But most of all, just like the video if you enjoyed it and to leave a comment down below what you thought about the show. But most of all, guys, as always, I will see you later. Let's hope that this is all recorded. If not, let's just start from the top.